Smoke poured out of the prison tower and drifted across the city. From the top of Strangeways Prison, men could be seen waving sheets and shouting into the open air. Below them, alarms screamed without stopping. Police lines formed outside the walls. News helicopters circled above, their cameras pointed down as the world watched something Britain had never seen before. The prison was gone. Control was gone. This was the 1990 Strangeways Riot, the moment Britain's prison system cracked open for everyone to see. And as officers stood back and the smoke grew thicker, one truth became impossible to ignore. What happened inside Strangeways did not start that day. It had been building for years. And decades later, the echoes of that riot would return in ways no one expected. Long before the riot, Strangeways was already under pressure. The prison was old. Very old. Built in another time, for another kind of prison life. Cells were small. Corridors were narrow. Men spent long hours locked inside with little to do and nowhere to go. In the late 1980s, prisoners complained quietly at first. Then louder. About overcrowding. About long lockups. About not being treated like people. Most of those complaints went nowhere. By 1990, Strangeways was packed far beyond what it was meant to hold. Men from across Greater Manchester and other northern UK cities were squeezed inside. Tempers were short. Trust was gone. Then one morning, everything snapped. A small protest turned into a takeover. Prisoners climbed onto roofs. Fires were lit. Parts of the prison were destroyed. Officers pulled back. The riot lasted days, not hours. When it finally ended, Strangeways was changed forever. Britain promised reform. New rules were written. Inspections increased. Prison life, on paper, was supposed to improve. And for a while, it did. But Strangeways never forgot what it had been. Years passed. The prison was renamed Prison Manchester. Repairs were made. New systems were put in place. Cameras were added. Procedures tightened. From the outside, it looked calm again. Inside, something was still wrong. Michael Carter arrived decades after the riot, but he heard about it on his first day. "Don't forget where you are," an older inmate told him quietly. "This place remembers." Michael had been transferred from Greater Manchester after repeated lockdowns at another prison. He noticed the silence first. Not peaceful silence, tight silence. Like everyone was waiting for something. Life inside modern Strangeways was strict. Movement was slow. Lockdowns happened often. Phones went off without warning. Yard time was cancelled at the last minute. No one explained why. Officers said it was about safety. Inmates said it felt like pressure. Men from northern cities, Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, and beyond, were placed together in an already crowded prison. Old rivalries followed them inside. Space grew tighter. Patience thinner. Small things began to happen. A fire alarm pulled at night. A door found damaged in the morning. A sudden lockdown with no clear reason. Each time, the prison locked down harder. Michael heard the stories during whispers through cell doors. "This feels familiar," one man said. "My uncle was here during the riot," another whispered. "He said it started like this." Michael didn't want to believe it. Then came the lockdowns. One day turned into 3. 3 into 5. Meals arrived late and cold. Showers were limited. Tension grew fast in small spaces. During one evening count, the lights flickered. Just once. Enough to make everyone look up. The next day, officers searched cells across the wing. Property was taken. Tempers exploded. A fight broke out before officers could stop it. That night, alarms sounded again. Not as loud as the riot days. Not yet. Michael lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the tower. About smoke rising over Manchester. About men shouting just to be heard. Strangeways had changed the system once by breaking apart. Now, it felt like something inside it was waking up again. And as the prison slipped into another unexplained lockdown, Michael realized something chilling. The riot was history. But the unrest was not. It was still here. Waiting. The lockdown did not end the next day. Or the day after that. Michael stopped counting time the normal way. Breakfast came late. Lunch came earlier than expected. Dinner sometimes did not come at all. The light stayed on longer at night, making sleep hard. The prison felt tired, like it had been awake for too long. Men began to argue through their doors. How long is this? What did we do? Why are we being punished? No answers came. Inside Strangeways Prison, silence had always meant control. Now it felt like something else. Like fear. On the fourth day of lockdown, officers allowed limited movement. One cell at a time. No talking. No stopping. Michael stepped into the corridor and felt the tension right away. Men stared at each other. Some angry. Some scared. Some already tired of waiting. In the shower area, someone whispered, "They are hiding something." Michael did not reply, but the word stayed with him. That night, the phones were shut off again. No warning. No notice on the board. Just dead screens. A man from Leeds began banging on his door. "This isn't right," he shouted. "This isn't safe." Officers came quickly. Too quickly. The man was taken away. His cell was empty the next morning. Rumors spread fast after that. Some said officers were stretched thin. Some said the prison was overcrowded again. Some said inspectors were coming, and the lockdowns were meant to keep things quiet. Michael remembered what he had learned about the 1990 riot. How complaints were ignored. How pressure built quietly. How control slipped when no one expected it. The next disturbance came at night. A fire alarm screamed from another wing. Men shouted. Doors rattled. Smoke crept into the corridor, thin but real. Michael stood at his door, heart pounding. "This is how it started," someone yelled. Officers rushed past. Orders were shouted. The alarm stopped suddenly, like someone had cut the sound with a knife. The prison went silent again. The next morning, the yard was closed. Programs were cancelled. Food portions were smaller. Tempers were shorter. An older inmate spoke through the wall to Michael. "They changed the rules after the riot," the man said. "But they never fixed the crowding. Never fixed the waiting." Michael sat on his bed and listened. Days later, inspectors were rumored to be inside the prison. Men said they saw clipboards. Questions being asked. Notes being taken. But the lockdowns continued. One evening, during count, the lights flickered again. This time, they went out for a full second. Shouting broke out instantly. Then banging. Not one door. Many. The sound rolled down the wing like thunder. Michael backed away from his door as the noise grew louder. Alarms started to scream again. Red lights flashed. And in that moment, Michael understood something the history books never fully explained. The Strangeways Riot did not happen because people wanted chaos. It happened because they felt trapped. As officers ran and voices rose, Michael realized the prison was standing on the same edge again. And no one knew which way it would fall. The banging spread faster than anyone expected. Metal doors shook up and down the wing. Shouts bounced off the old walls. Some men yelled in anger. Others yelled in fear. Michael pressed his back against the cold wall of his cell and tried to breathe slow. Then the alarms went wild. Not just one. All of them. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. The sound was so loud it hurt his ears. Officers ran past his door, shouting orders that mixed together and made no sense. "Get down. Stay in your cells. Back away from the doors." Inside Strangeways Prison, control was slipping again. Smoke crept into the corridor, thin at first, then thicker. Someone had started a small fire in another wing. Not big. Not like 1990. But enough to send a message. Michael remembered the pictures from the old riot. Men on the tower. Smoke over the city. Cameras watching everything. This time, there were no cameras inside the cells. Only fear and waiting. A door somewhere down the wing gave way with a loud crack. Men cheered. Others shouted for everyone to stop. "This won't end well," someone yelled. Officers formed lines. Shields came out. Orders became sharp and loud. The calm voice Strangeways was known for was gone. Michael dropped to the floor when told. He pressed his face against the concrete and felt it vibrate as boots ran past him. Minutes felt like hours. Slowly, the noise changed. Less shouting. More commands. The smoke thinned. One alarm stopped. Then another. Finally, the loudspeaker crackled. "All inmates remain in cells. The situation is under control." Michael stayed on the floor until an officer told him to stand. When he looked out through the small window in his door, the wing looked different. A door was bent. Marks were burned into the wall. The air still smelled like smoke. Someone had been taken away. No one knew who. The prison went into full lockdown. Days passed. No yard. No phones. Food came late and small. Men spoke in whispers again. But this time, the whispers were different. They almost lost it. "They can't keep doing this. It's the same problems. Just quieter." Inspectors arrived soon after. They walked the wings. They asked questions. They wrote things down. Officers stood close by. Michael watched them pass and wondered if anything would really change. He thought about the riot in 1990. How it forced the country to look inside prison walls. How it promised things would be better. Strangeways had been rebuilt. The system had been reshaped. The rules had changed. But the prison was still crowded. The waiting was still long. The pressure was still there. That night, Michael lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. The prison was quiet again. Too quiet. He understood now what the older inmates meant. The riot was not just a moment in history. It was a warning. And the modern incidents, the lockdowns, the unrest, they were reminders that the warning had never been fully answered. Inside Strangeways Prison, the past was not gone. It was still living in the walls.